So most people in astrology think, well, these are the aspects. If it's not in there, there's no aspect. But they didn't learn astrology holistically or completely. They learned it as a certain number system, and if it's not in this division, it's not there. There's a lot of things happen in astrology. I mean, it's a language. There's so many ways to look at it, and each one can be interesting and useful. The Western theory that there's 12 signs, so there has to be 12 planets to rule it. That was a kind of dogma, but it brought in a whole new system of astrology, adding Uranus, Neptune, Pluto rulerships. Now, after years of working with them, it becomes apparent that the main planets that you can see up to Saturn are the ones with rulership. The other planets are more invisible, but they're still powerfully there, and we'll discover them. We see their presence, but we'll really see the transits, and we'll see them when they're in operation. My point was that the logic that there's 12 signs, so it has to be 12 planets, is not necessarily. It's a mathematical dogma. It's not necessarily the astronomical phenomenal fact. And much of my teaching is going into what I think is basing on the more phenomenal facts, and then seeing the implications of it subjectively, rather than the theoretical, numerological, abstract thought and the associations to it. That's a big issue. Okay, I don't want to get lost in this. Not now. Just so we're going to be looking at just the little phases for the sextiles, for the trines, and it's just, yeah, so the same thing. You just put the example. We're looking for these phases of the aspects, and we're going to ignore the others. So this is why you have the aspect grid at the beginning. We have the conjunction, 1/1, 1/6, the sextile, 1/4, the square, the trine, the opposition. This is as they're growing in size, but really they were based on fractions or divisions of the circle. But the main ones, the conjunction, the square, and the opposition, they're all stress and tension activities. Stress and tension struggle to be effective. Stress, tension, contrast of awareness or counterbalance. So there's different types of stress and tension and between the squares, and then you have the waxing and waning. But even now, we're not even going to look at waxing and waning. We're just looking at that the stress is there. Okay, so there's 3 aspects that will cause stress, 2 aspects that will be not stressful or not so, be more harmonious. Easy, you say, oh, I'm glad I have the harmonious. But if you're in a store or a restaurant and 50 people are sitting in the restaurant harmoniously eating their meal, and one person starts screaming, that one person is going to get all the attention until it's settled down. The stress has to be dealt with first. Just that will happen that way. You don't take care of your stress patterns, and they come back. What you emit and what you haven't taken care of comes back to mess up what you're supposed to have done. Some things we have to do for ourselves, some things we have to do so we're not interfering with others. But we're really just, what we're going to be doing with this next class, we're looking at the stressful factors. Just simple. This is how much stress, how much not stress is involved on that planet. And we're going to get pictures of planetary functioning that add a whole nother dimension, because it's not just about the attitude or the circumstances. It's interdimensional consciousness affecting each other, and different people have different sets or pictures of how their moon works, or what their sense of security is, or how their memory works. Okay, and then if it's the sun or the moon, if the sun is moon is involved in the aspect, you allow 10 degrees. So it jumps from 170 to 180 for an opposition, instead of 173 to 180 to 173, or it jumps from 80 to 100 for a square instead of 83 to 97. It's just that extra 3 degrees. So conjunction, same way, 0 to 7. If it's the sun or moon, it's the 0 to 10. So these are our notes. On our charts, when we color them, I use red for conjunctions, squares, and oppositions, really white or yellow, but the conjunctions are beside each other, so there's not really a line to be drawn. So it's mostly the red that is representative of the stress in a chart. Okay, we're moving on. We're just carrying on here, rambling on, but it's not really rambling. It's just laying the groundwork for how much aspects can be. But right now, we need it for the chart. But you're going to run into so many insights about astrology, about aspects, about phases of the moon, and they're all relevant, but you can get lost in the middle of it. So this is the last point of complication that I want to bring up. This shows the relationships. Here's the conjunction, the squares, the opposition, and the outer wheel. Okay, if you're going to relate it to the zodiac, how does it relate? The greatest darkness is the conjunction. It relates to it's the same as the winter solstice, and at the same time of the IC in the horoscope, the fourth house in the horoscope, cusp in the horoscope. So these are the dark points in the circle. It's where each circle begins. Normally, and if you read Western astrology books, Aries, the conjunctions like Aries, it's the beginning of the cycle. You just go on impulse, but Aries is not the beginning of the cycle. Aries is halfway between the greatest light, darkness, and the greatest light. It's the square. So the conjunction is the Capricornian phase. It's cautious. You get a baby. You just don't wing it on impulse, throw it here, throw it there. No, it's work. You have to take care of it. You have to do this. You have to worry about this every little thing. It's cold. It's difficult. It's effort. You have anything you begin, you have to protect it first. You have to be seriously protecting and defending it at the beginning, or it's not going to last for the cycle. Once you get to a quarter point of the square, you can allow then the basic groundwork is there, and the impulse of the Aries and doing things oneself can come. That phase can come out. So Aries is more like the waxing square. Now, interesting thing, that Aries that's the waxing square is like the 12th house. So there's a school of astrology that says Aries is like the conjunction. The conjunction is like Aries, it's like the first house, and they all mean the same thing. Well, you can look at it like that and you can see things like that, but really you're seeing very fuzzy. And when you can get a clearer picture and see much more lucidly, you have a better tool. Why would you use the lesser tool than the better tool? So this requires a lot of thinking, and a lot of books talking about aspects, and that we'll talk about them as Aries is the impulsive, and they have a wrong attitude in them. There's a distortion in how they're advising people. And because of that, they're advising people to be impulsive and pushy when they should be cautious and defensive. I mean, it's really a strong thing in the Western astrology, this process. And it's interesting that the Western countries are so aggressive. But this caution, this defense, this protection at the beginning of the cycle. Every cycle, anything they start, you have to do the extra work. You plant a seed, you have to water it. You don't even know if it's growing. You have to keep watering it until you finally see it growing. And when you see it growing, then you can start weeding and take care of things. But until then, you don't even know if it's a take yet or not. So this was just a diagram to show the correspondences of the aspect cycle to the signs of the zodiac. And on the inside, it goes through the houses. Now, here the houses are looking to make it fit all together. That looks like the houses are put in there in a different order. They're in the same order, but they're reversed, like a mirror image. But that's because just like the planets, even though the houses are numbered in a certain way, the planets move through them in the opposite way. They go from the fourth house to the third, to the second, to the fifth, first to the 12th, to the 11th, to the 10th. The planets move around the houses in the opposite way. So do the aspects do the same thing. From the third house to the second house to the first house, it's like the squares, like the ascendant, then the 12th house, then the 11th, then the 10th, up to the midheaven, then the 9th. So this is spacey. It's really stuff I should be teaching I will be teaching at the 8th level, but I just had a feeling I should put it in here now anyways. But so it means there's a lot to be said for Capricorn being in the same phase as the new moon phase, or the first phase of an aspect and it's similar to the third house of communication, the first words being spoke. So you have to be cautious about what you're saying, or think about what you're saying and its effect on others. So it just builds up like that. Anyways, I wanted to put, and then the yin yang circles around this. So this is the correspondences of all the cycles we've dealt with up to now and how they fit together. So we're used to, here, this is a symbol of of a person in meditation with the different chakras in their body, different levels of consciousness, different focuses of consciousness. And it's a common symbol in the East in various forms, but seeing someone do this, so there's the centers, and this is very similar to what we've been doing. Each planet is a different level of consciousness going up the sign, like a different chakra. And and at the top is the 12 colors that are signs of the zodiac. At the bottom are the 12 shades of gray, or the hours of the day, and they're really like one big pillar. And if you look down the top, you'd see the horoscope as we normally see it. But really, it's never quite as easy. There's this whole depth perception within a horoscope. Once you get familiar with it, you've mastered the mystery of interpreting a chart and being able to go to the depths. It's a simple association. To me, this is like an overwhelmingly incredible connection, how they fit to each other. How much we tap, how much we communicate with it, depends on how much we become aware of each planet or each layer of consciousness. So even in studying the aspects, we begin to study how each planet or each level of consciousness is affected by the consciousness of other planets, by how each planet is affected, whether there's stress between this planet and that planet. But to do that, you have to understand each planet. So to deal with the difficult aspect between the moon and Mercury, you're going to have to deal with the difference between memory and thinking. And when does one stop and where does the other begin? And how can they positively or negatively or stressfully affect each other? Or between the moon and Mars, or Mercury and Venus, or Mars and Venus. It's the kingdom of aspects. There's so many aspects. And each one is a link of energy going from one level of consciousness to another. And it affects our functions in our life and how we function. How easy or difficult. Some people make mental connections really easy. Some people have to get through emotions, have to get through things, and it comes to them, their clarity comes in different ways. Everyone's valid. It's just, it really gets unique in terms of looking at the energy. When you're dealing with the energy of each planet positively, that's really healing. When you're dealing with the stress and it's alive and you're making use of it and you're fixing it and you're working with it, you're alive, it's work, but things are happening and you're healthy. As soon as you start blocking, I can't deal with this, I'm not going to deal with this. As soon as you start blocking one of your stress energies, it starts creating dis-ease and starts making you less comfortable, less happy, less healthy, because a negative backlash is accumulating because of your stress, or you're not dealing with the stress. Okay, so that's the end of this part.